I've been doing this a very long time, and I've experienced so much to not believe that there's more than one way. That was said to me by a nun who was visiting my dad on hospice. And I'm about to share that story and the experience about how there's more than one way. Don't go nowhere. Hey, it's Tony Fonte. How you doing? Welcome back, and let's dive into the story of this conversation I had with this nun who came out to visit my dad. And here I am in the spiritual realm, and I knew this nun was going to come out and visit my dad who was on hospice. And my dad didn't believe. He didn't believe because he grew up Catholic, moved away, didn't believe in anything up until the time he died. And it was interesting to have this conversation. It's like, oh, I wonder how this is going to go with her and him. Plus, just to kind of just see where where I'm at, and just kind of see how the conversation is going to go there. So she comes out and she's talking to my dad, who's laying in bed, and I'm sitting there, and we had a little conversation about how my relationship with my dad was growing up, and my dad was cool with that, listening to that. And she starts talking about going to the other side, going to heaven, transitioning to the other dimension, whatever you want to call it, right? And she's sitting there having this conversation, and she looks at my dad. She goes, "Well, I don't think you're atheist. I think you're agnostic." And it was interesting because my dad just opened his eyes, looked over at her, and goes, "I know what I believe." Said it in this stern, just firm, confident voice. "I know what I believe." And she giggles and laughs and she says, you're rightfully named after one of the saints," and it was Saint Thomas. And I didn't know that. Saint Thomas, who was the doubter. He doubted all the way up until the end. I thought that was interesting. And she says, "Well, you're going to be pleasantly surprised when you get to the other side." And I was like, well, that's interesting. Here I am, have a Catholic nun telling me that he's going to be pleasantly surprised when he gets to the other side. And in religion, Christianity, the belief is, well, if you don't believe in Jesus, if you don't believe in him being your savior, that you're going to hell and you're not going to heaven. And so I was like, I'm going to have a conversation with her afterwards because I'm interested to see her take and her side on this. So that conversation ends. I'm walking her out because she's leaving. And I said, "Hey, I got to ask you a question because you said something in there that kind of caught my curiosity and I wanted to know more." I said, "Because you're a nun." And I said, "You said that there's more than one way and he's going to be," hold on a minute. I'm getting to that point. You said that he's going to be pleasantly surprised when he gets to the other side. But it was always been the belief, especially with me being in religion, that there's only one way. There's only one way to get there, and you got to believe in Jesus, which I no longer believe. That you go to hell. You go to hell. And she looked at me and said, "I've been doing this for way too long, for a long time, and I've experienced way too much to not believe that there is more than one way." And it was like, blew my mind. I'm like, wow, here's someone who believes in the Bible, yet says, "Oh wait, I've experienced way too much. Just because there's something here, that I'm experiencing way too much." And then I got to experience that myself because my dad passed just a few days later. And there's another story I'm going to share with that too, understanding that like I channeled that he was going to visit shortly after he passed, and that all came to fruition. And I'll share that in a later time. But my dad came to visit, and he's visited many, many times. He's visited family. He's visited my friends who are very spiritual people. He's visited them. So they've experienced it. I've experienced it. Many other people have experienced it. And that confirmed to me that there's more than one way. But here's the thing. There's more than one way to get to heaven, which heaven is within. Not just on this other side, this other dimension. Of course, when we transition out of this body, this physical body, we go back into that dimension. But that dimension's also intertwined here. We have this idea, and we've been conditioned to believe that heaven and earth are separate. They're separate. But with my own experience, that I feel spirits constantly, that my wife who passed, she visits quite a bit. I feel other people's loved ones. My dad has showed up. I sense when spirits are near. Now, I do believe that there's times when the, I want to say the veil, but it's not the veil. It's just more the energy density between the two dimensions is thinner, that we experience more. That's around Halloween time. I feel spirits more around that time, but I feel them all the time. So heaven and earth is not just like some separate place. They're actually intertwined, but there's more than one way. That's really the story I'm getting at here. There's more than one way to get there. And there's no way that, there's fear-based, that you have to do something, you have to believe in something outside of you. And that's not even what Jesus was teaching in the first place. I've come to know that there is more to that, and he's actually teaching this and how we are the kingdom of heaven, and and who we are and who we truly are as spiritual beings, and how we create, and how hell is not a physical place, but my dad is actually a real life experience of what it's like to experience hell here on earth. And we experience hell within when we're so far away from who we are, and we're riddled by guilt, and we're riddled by shame, and we're riddled by judgment, and all these insecurities, and all these things that we're going through. And this is the whole process of remembering who we are. And that's the death, and then resurrecting, and I should say the death of the old is the death of the old self, the sin, the original sin, which was you're missed the mark, you're off the path, you're not being who you truly are. And so then you resurrect, remember who you truly are as a spiritual being. You are God manifested. And you have these amazing powers. You have the power of God to create this life, to co-create. And it's about moving forward and releasing all these conditions and these generational things to become you again, and live and manifest this life, and then experiment and have fun and play with these gifts, and not be stuck in the conditioning of one way. There's more than one way to spirituality. There's more than one way to live your life. There's more than one way to create a business, to have a job. There's more than one way to get the wisdom, the knowledge. There is no absolute here on earth. Nothing. There's more than one timeline, even for other people and ourselves. And we have the ability to switch these timelines, to move to that timeline. They're already there. There's already multiple different realities. There's more than one way. There's more than one way. There's more than one way to get to the other side. And there's more than one way to get to your true self. The self that goes back to its purest form when we transition out of this body. When we go to heaven in the other dimension, the fifth dimension, or higher, whatever you believe in. But there's more than one way. And I want you to know that there's more than one way. And maybe that way is you believe that you have to be saved by Jesus. Maybe that is your way. Maybe that is the timeline you're on, and that's okay. But I want you to understand this. There's more than one way, which means all ways are valid. Because if someone believes in them, they're valid. That means that's the timeline that they are on. It doesn't make the other ways invalid. It doesn't make them untrue. It's just not true to you at that moment. And we can shift, like I have. I shifted from not believing in anything to believing something, but leave me the fuck alone, to going into church and being there for a while, and then questioning because something didn't feel right, and then having all my fucking beliefs just totally just ripped off of me. And I continue to have that process go on. As I grow, as I sin, as I continue on my spiritual awakening journey, and I let go of those old ways, and I experience that those old ways aren't true for me anymore. Doesn't mean they're not true for somebody. They're just not true for me. And if you're watching this and you're questioning things, maybe it's no longer true for you. And this is the message you needed to hear. I'd love to hear from you. I want to know your thoughts, what resonated with you, what stood out to you, what was your freeing moment, if there was. And if it's not for you, that's okay. It's okay. Continue believing the way that you believe. I honor it. All right. Love y'all. All right. If you want to learn how to awaken your genius, how to really remember who you truly are, and then die to the old and ascend to the new, and begin ascending as you go on your spiritual awakening process. Awaken your genius, which means you are awakening to your true self, and you're finally coming out of the cocoon, and you're finally going, I'm going to be me. I'm going to manifest the life that I want, that I love, that is exciting and fun, being able to laugh through life. Then I want to invite you to learn more about my Awaken Your Genius program. It's going to give you all the tools. It's going to give you all my gifts and powers and modalities. You actually get time with me to not only do some Reiki healing to move that stuck energy, but use the intuitive channeling to help you figure out exactly what's going on, where your block is in that moment, so you can begin removing those blocks and begin doing the inner work and begin just bringing your power back, and then taking that power and growing and expanding, and then showing up and shining your light into the world the way that you were meant to be in this world, removing all the conditioning, as well as having a community of like-minded people who are on a similar journey, who are growing with you, who are cheering you on, who are bringing this amazing energy to help raise the collective of the group and to raise the collective of humanity. The link is below to learn more about it and to see if it's right for you. I'd love to see you in there, and I'd love to actually just give me your comments as well. All right, talk to you later. Bye.